In 1895, a botanist in South Africa found something extraordinary. A plant that had been on Earth for 300 million years, since before the dinosaurs. He dug it up. He sent it to London. It has been waiting there ever since. For a mate. That will never come. There are plants on this Earth right now that are the last of their kind. Not endangered. Not rare. Just one. And every single one of them is going to die without leaving a world with anything like it again. Let's start with the most dramatic. Encephalartos woodii, wood cycad. A plant older than flowering plants themselves. Older than most dinosaurs. When the botanist John Medley would found it in the Ngoi forest in 1895, something immediately seemed off. He had found several stems, a cluster, growing together. But every single one was male. Not a single female in the entire species. Here's the thing about cycads. You can't self-fertilize. A male needs a female. And for 130 years, this one has had nobody. All the specimens you see in botanical gardens around the world, in London, in Longwood, in Cape Town, are clones. Genetic copies of one lonely male. They are all, technically, the same plant. The same individual. Waiting for a female that may be out there somewhere, hidden in the dense Ngoi forest. Or may not exist at all. Scientists have sent drones, trained AI, flown multispectral cameras over thousands of hectares. Nothing. The world's most comprehensively searched plant. And still, alone. New Zealand sits in the South Pacific, thousands of kilometers from anywhere. And off its northern coast, there is a cluster of even smaller islands, the Three Kings Islands. Wind-scoured, goat-infested. In 1945, a botanist named Jeff Bayliss found something extraordinary there. A tree. A single tree. It was a female, in bloom, covered in tiny white flowers. Beautiful. And completely, catastrophically alone. Unlike the wood cycad, we actually know why this happened. Three Kings Island used to have a lowland forest. It was cleared, burned. Goats were introduced. Everything else died. This one tree survived, on a scree slope too steep for goats to reach. It has been there for over 80 years. Holding on, but it needs a male plant. The male has never been found. The tree has been artificially propagated. All the specimens around the world are clones of this one. Every single one of them is a female, waiting 80 years, and counting. Now for one that sounds like science fiction, but is completely real. In the permafrost of Siberia, Russian scientists found a seed. It was buried 32 meters underground. Radiocarbon dating confirmed it, 32,000 years old. From the Pleistocene, woolly mammoths were still walking the earth. The humans who planted it, if they existed, had been dead for 30,000 years before the pyramids were built. The scientists did something extraordinary. They tried to grow it, and it worked. The Silene stenophylla, a small white flower, the oldest plant ever revived from a dormant state, opened in a laboratory in Russia. For a brief moment, a 32,000-year-old life reached across the impossible distance of geological time and pushed a new route into the present. One ancient individual, alone in a laboratory in Russia. While modern Silene stenophylla plants still grow in the Siberian tundra, the specific 32,000-year-old genetic individual revived from permafrost exists nowhere else. It is, in effect, a window into the Pleistocene, a genetic ghost that has no living equivalent anywhere on Earth. On the island of Mauritius, the same island that was the home of the dodo, there once grew a palm. It was not spectacular, not beautiful in any obvious way. Blue-green trunk, blue-green fronds, a mid-sized palm. Nobody thought much of it. Then the island was cleared. Forest after forest, flattened for sugar plantations, for settlements, for everything else. And one day, someone looked around and realized this palm was the last one. Not the last one in Mauritius. The last one, anywhere. In 1942, a single specimen was found in a botanic garden in Kew. It had been planted there decades earlier, probably by a gardener who didn't know it was special. It was at least 100 years old by then. Today, it is around 150 years old. It stands in that garden, surrounded by a metal cage, too valuable to risk. The world's only Hyophorbe amaricaulis. All the other palms in botanical gardens around the world all of them, are clones of this one plant. Every single one. It has never produced a viable seed. It may be sterile. It does not know that it is the last of anything. This one starts with a number that is almost a joke. 2. There are 2 known Middlemist red camellias in the entire world. 2. One is in a greenhouse in Chiswick House, London. The other is in a garden in New Zealand. That is it. That is the complete global population of one of the rarest flowers on Earth. The story goes like this. In the early 1800s, a botanist named John Middlemist brought a camellia from China to England. He gave it to a friend. The friend planted it in a greenhouse. The greenhouse eventually became a museum. The plant survived. When botanists finally cataloged how rare it was, they found only one original specimen still growing in England, Chiswick House. The second one, in New Zealand, is believed to be a cutting from the same original lineage. 2 flowers, on opposite sides of the planet, incompatible for natural pollination. All the Middlemist reds you see anywhere in the world are clones, propagated from those 2 plants. Every single one identical to the original that arrived from China 200 years ago. 5 more plants, 5 more stories, each one stranger than the last. The Cyanea helluensis, a sprawling shrub from the cliffs of West Maui, with long white flowers curling gently downward. Scientists found it in 2020, named it, then realized this was not a newly discovered species. It was a newly discovered extinction in progress. 1 plant, 1, on an entire island. The Toctogenia perrieri, from Madagascar, from the same island where 90% of everything on it has been cleared. 1 specimen was collected in 1909, then it vanished from every forest. For a full century, botanists assumed it was gone. Then, in 1994, a botanist named George Schatz found another one, growing on a hillside in northeastern Madagascar. Still alone, still waiting. The Hyophorbe obesa, a small gray-green succulent from South Africa, shaped like a perfect baseball. So desirable to collectors that it was nearly collected into complete extinction in the wild. Today, every one in cultivation is a clone, mass-produced for the horticultural trade. In the wild, almost nothing left. The species survives almost entirely in greenhouses. On the rocky slopes where it once grew, nearly gone. The Nymphea thermorum, the world's smallest water lily, with pads the size of a fingernail and flowers the size of a thumbnail. Native to a single hot spring in Rwanda. The spring was diverted for agriculture. The water lily vanished from the wild. It survives only in botanical gardens, descended from a single plant, propagated in laboratories. And the Pinus maximartinezii, a Mexican pine so rare, it produces the largest pine nuts of any pine species on the planet. Botanists spent decades searching for it. 1 tree was confirmed in the wild, in the mountains of Zacatecas. Recent surveys have found a small additional population nearby, but the species remains so fragmented, so isolated, that cross-pollination in the wild may never happen again. Here is the question I want to leave you with. These plants, the 3-million-year-old Bachelor, the Siberian flower revived from the Ice Age, the last palm on Mauritius, none of them know they are the last. They are not suffering from loneliness in any way we can measure. They simply are. But every one of them carries genetic information that took millions of years of evolution to produce. Information we will never get back once they are gone. And for most of them, the thing that will end them is not a meteor, not a climate shift, not an evolutionary dead end. These plants are dying alone, but we are the ones who put them there.